creepy guy at my door. I'm not sure if my story belongs here, but I've always been creeped out by it. I was a 25-year-old woman. Back in 2018, I lived with my boyfriend in our hometown. It's a small city that's relatively poor, and has some drug problems as there's not much to do. My boyfriend, now husband, was at his friend's house. It was a Saturday night, and he said he'd be home around 9. He was about 2 towns over, a 20-minute drive. At the time, we lived in a duplex, split upstairs and downstairs. It used to be a big house, but was converted into a duplex. My cousin actually rented the downstairs apartment, and she was kind of loud. I knew when she was and wasn't home. She wasn't home this night. The way our street was designed, the backs of the house on my street and the parallel street all faced a narrow alley, and the driveways were mostly only accessible this way. The downstairs unit had a front porch with a door and a side door. Our upstairs unit had the back door at the top of an outside set of wooden stairs. I'm home watching TV alone when I hear someone coming up the stairs and knock on the door. It was about 8:30. It wouldn't be that unusual for my boyfriend to come home early. Maybe they got bored playing video games, or he just felt like leaving. I was in the habit of unlocking the door for him when he came home instead of him using his keys, because it was dark and could be a hassle. So I got up and opened the door to someone who was not my boyfriend. In front of me stood a very thin man, wearing oversized jeans and a hoodie. He had about 4 teeth and was teetering back and forth. I was so shocked, considering I was positive it was my boyfriend coming home. The guy at the door asks me, "Can I use your phone?" Behind him, down the stairs and in the alley, I see a big SUV, Ford Explorer type of vehicle, just idling, with someone in the driver's seat. I panic and just say, "Yeah, hold on." I then shut and lock the door. I think I was more shocked about the stranger being at my door and not my boyfriend than anything else. I hide so he can't see me through the front door's window and freeze. Something was just telling me this was not okay. After a few minutes, I hear him start walking down the stairs. I go over to the door and see the car drive away down the alley. I call my boyfriend and tell him. He says he'll leave. He was about to leave anyway, but like I said, it was a 20-minute drive. After he got home, I calmed down and honestly felt silly. Why not just lend him my phone? Was it really that weird? But then I thought about it more over the next few days. It was 2018. This guy and whoever was driving, between the two of them, neither one had a phone? And it wasn't like they were having car trouble. What would they want a stranger's phone for? They also went down an alley, to the back side of a house, and up some stairs, to ask for a phone? They didn't go to my cousin's front door downstairs. I would have heard someone on the porch. They didn't go to any other house. I saw them leave the street after that. Also, why go to a house to ask for a phone when there was no car in the driveway? And, of course, our battery-powered security camera was dead at the time. I genuinely am not sure what they wanted. If anyone has any ideas or thinks I'm overthinking it, let me know. But, creepy guy at my door, let's not meet again. Someone is watching me. So, I have never posted on this sub, though I have other stories I've buried deep until recently. But, this is happening in the present. I've had people stalk and follow me before, and because of that, and my true crime addiction, I've become supremely paranoid and a solid curtain twitcher. I, a 31-year-old female, reside in an upstairs room that was my first room to myself as a child. I had to leave a bad situation and therefore ended up back at my childhood home. When our house was built, we were told that the field to our left, with horses and a barn at the time, would one day soon be a development. It was 2000 when we were told that, and it wasn't until 2022 that roads started being formed and foundations laid. I'd already had someone follow me home before, when I was young, but I was in a different bedroom next door. My parents put in a free library that's right below my window, and nighttime security lights that are very bright and turn on if you're within 20 feet of it. I'll admit, having an open field next to me for so long made me accustomed to not closing the curtains when I change, because there was never anyone out there to watch. Now there is. For the past 2 weeks, the burglar lights next to the free library have been going off late at night. Because my one side of the curtain is open, so I can use my vape, that's the only reason I noticed at all. I didn't think too much at first. We lock all the doors and windows every night, and I'm on the second floor. I look out to see if it was a car, someone walking their dog, or a deer, only to see nothing. To add, they put in a ton of streetlights around the area so visibility is great. But it just kept happening. So last night, I did my usual nightly routine, and I see the lights come on out of my peripherals. I acted natural, giving full view out the window that I was going to bed. It was about 3 a.m. I turn off the TV, close the windows and curtains, and turn out the light. I duck down, peering through the curtains to the sidewalk below. I honestly thought I was going to pass out when after a few minutes, maybe 5, someone comes out from the side of my house, all silhouette, dressed in black. They kept their back to me until the light turned off, but I swear I could still see them standing there, looking up like they could see me. I called the police, but while I was on the phone with the operator, I saw him run off. There wasn't much they could do except say they'd have a car drive around and look. My parents are asleep, and I know I have to tell them tomorrow. This scares the crap out of me. If it hadn't been happening for weeks and was only a solo incident, I'd probably be fine with it. But the fact that the light had been going off without me seeing activity, and what happened tonight, makes me think this person has been watching me, and watching my house. To the person outside my window, let's please never meet. Update. I told my parents, and at first they brushed me off, claiming I'd had a couple drinks and it was late, so I probably just saw someone checking out the library. I had another conversation about it with just my dad, who said that there had been reports recently of car break-ins, and since my car is parked on the street right outside my window, maybe they were trying to break into it. I pointed out that if he was trying to get into my car, why was he pressed up against the house where he was invisible from my window? And why did he at no point go towards my car? I think I freaked him out enough that we're going to get a camera for that area. Given all the development happening around us, I think it's smart, even without this incident. I'll update here again if anything happens. The creep at the train station. This happened to me when I was 13. For some background, I had switched to another school that was further away from home, and now instead of just taking only one bus, I had to take a bus, a train, and then another bus to get there. With my now longer commute, I had to leave my house around 7 a.m. if I wanted to be there by 8:30. For the most part, I was never worried about safety since public transit was busy in the morning. As I got off the train, I had to cross a big bridge in order to reach the area with the different bus routes. There were 3 major ones, but it didn't matter which one I got on as they all passed the school before breaking off into separate directions. So one morning, as I was waiting for one of the buses to show up, some random construction worker, also waiting for a bus, starts talking to me. He looked about mid-30s. I didn't think much of it, as I was pretty social. I started seeing him more frequently at the bus area, and I began to find it a bit strange because he would always compliment me. He'd say I had a cool bag or a nice jacket at first, but he never said anything to raise any red flags. Things started to get weird pretty quick though, and he would start complimenting my features, saying that I had pretty eyes or a cute smile. I was beginning to get a bit uncomfortable, but I brushed it off and chose to start avoiding him. I never thought too much of my own safety, as there were always people around and I had a cell phone just in case I had to call my parents or the police. I didn't see the guy for a few days, so I began to think I was in the clear, and forgot about him. Then things really began to escalate. I was sitting by myself with my earbuds in one day when suddenly someone tapped my shoulder and sat beside me. It was the guy. And now he's talking to me like we're friends. I was really uncomfortable. I tried to dismiss him and went to walk away to the other side of the bus area. But that's when he said something that really caught me off guard. He just casually turns to me like it's nothing and says, "What would you do if I tied you up and never let you go?" I was genuinely appalled. I got up from the bench and started walking away. He got up and started to follow behind me, when thankfully 2 buses pulled in. He follows me onto the bus. I wasn't having it, so I got off and hopped onto the second one. If he followed me on again, I was going to tell the bus driver I needed help, but the guy didn't. I was so damn confused. I went to school and the first thing I did was tell my friends what happened. I really didn't understand the severity of the situation at first, because I was 13 and I didn't think these things happened to guys. As I was telling the story, I was kind of downplaying it because nothing bad actually happened in my eyes, and there were no real repercussions. Everyone gave me a dumbfounded stare, as no one knew what to say. One of my teachers overheard me, which I'm not surprised. I was a loud kid, and with a look of shock brought me to the principal's office. So I missed the entire first period of the day, explaining what happened to the principal and the police officer. My parents at first were really confused why I didn't mention anything about the weird guy before. I was driven to school the next few days, until a police officer came over to talk to me and my parents. He said that they found the guy on the transit cameras, and were able to track him down and talk to him. There wasn't much the officer could do, aside from telling him to stay away from me, since he technically didn't do anything illegal. The officer did tell me that they would be monitoring the train station around that time as well, and that if the guy ever approaches or talks to me again, to call 911. I saw him like 2 or 3 more times after that. He never spoke to me or even looked at me, which I'm very thankful for. I'm just glad nothing major came from it. But this really opened my eyes a lot about being more aware in public. Beware the sympathy trap. This is a long one, so bear with me. I, a 21-year-old female, work in the hospitality industry, specifically doing graveyard shifts, usually running from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've seen and dealt with some of the most insane experiences. I could probably write a book at this point, but this one in particular was one of the most frightening. I was raised to be caring, empathetic, and understanding. These core values mean a lot to me, and I live by them. On numerous occasions, I've been told that constantly having this mentality could lead to me being targeted by people with ill intentions. I didn't believe that, It's nice to be nice after all. But in hindsight, after everything that's happened, I've learned to be a bit more cautious. Usually on one of these graveyard shifts, there's 2 of us in the building at all times, and when we finish our work, we're basically free to sit down and relax for the remainder of our shift, or at least until the morning manager arrives at 6 a.m. So I did just that. I finished my tasks and sat down in the main area of the building to have a late-night snack and watch some reels on my phone, as you do. My coworker decided he would take a nap, as it was about 3 a.m. at this point and nobody was around. Fine by me. About 20 minutes later, I hear a commotion near the bar area. I look up from my phone only to meet the eyes of this man, about 40 maybe, just standing there at the bar counter. This wasn't unusual. People would often come down to grab some water or a smoke before heading back to bed. I thought nothing of it and went back to doom scrolling on my phone. Sorry, excuse me. I let out a sigh, thinking to myself, what could this man possibly want from me at 3:30 in the morning? I stood up and asked him if he was okay, and apologized for being on my phone, hoping he wouldn't complain to my manager in the morning. He responded, but I couldn't quite pick up what he was saying. I walked over to the bar and kindly asked him to repeat himself, apologizing for not hearing him. Is it okay if I have some water? He was shaking, almost nervous, soft-spoken and honestly non-threatening, bar the fact that he was about a foot taller than me. I said yes, and went to walk away when he stopped me. I'm sorry. Is it okay if I talk to you for a while? My mom is dying in the hospital and I can't sleep. Looking back, I'm kicking myself for not making up some excuse about needing to do work. But I agree to stay and talk with him. Stupid empathy. He asked if I smoke. I do, so I said yes. He then asked me to step outside to smoke and talk with him, and I foolishly agreed. We talk about his mom, and I try my best to comfort him. I just recently had someone pass away, so this topic hit particularly hard. He thanks me for being so kind, and continues to talk about his life, how he used to be homeless, but he moved in with his sister and got back on his feet, and that they were both staying here due to the circumstances, but were not from the city. I listened and occasionally responded by nodding. It was a polite conversation, but then something changed. Are there cameras out here? I wouldn't want you getting in trouble for being out here. How this didn't register in my mind as a red flag is unbelievable. How gullible can you be? Anyway, thankfully, I didn't respond with a yes or no. I just assured him I wouldn't get into trouble for being outside smoking. He seemed disappointed with my answer. I presume because he didn't get any information about where the cameras were placed. The conversation kept getting weirder and creepier. None of this I realized. I just saw a sad man meeting a friend. Yes, I know. I'm angry at myself too. Eventually, some form of fight or flight activated in my brain. I told him I was cold and was going to head back in. Come here. Give me a hug. It'll warm you up. What the heck? At this point, I'm creeped out, but thinking maybe he's just bad at picking up social cues or something. So I declined and walked inside. He follows me. He asked if he could grab a coffee and sit with me for a while. And being by myself, on the verge of a panic attack and not wanting to get on his bad side, I agreed. We sat there, and he continued to ask odd questions. Do you have kids? No. Do you want kids? Do you have a boyfriend? I told him I had a fiancé. A lie. Do you love him? I mean no harm in asking these questions. You're just so beautiful. At this point, my brain was screaming at me to get out of this situation. I had to think of something quick. Come sit next to me. I won't bite. Hell no. I quickly made up the excuse that I had to get the area ready for the morning, and that my manager would be showing up any minute. At the same time, my coworker woke from his nap and passed by to get a coffee. This startled the man, and he stood up before saying, tell your mom I was asking for her, forcing a hug, and left to go to his room. Oh my freaking God. He was pretending to be a family friend so that my coworker wouldn't be suspicious of him. I stood there in shock, unable to speak. My brain was still trying to process what the heck just happened. I kept quiet, helping my coworker set up for the morning, as it was now 5:30 a.m. Yes, I was dealing with this man for 2 hours. I sat down at 5:50 and waited for my manager to show up so that I could finally go home, hoping the man wouldn't come back and look for me. Wishful thinking. He showed up behind me out of nowhere. I think I'll go to the shops. I'm out of smokes. Okay. I need to know this why. I kept silent before he asked me for my pen, which I gave him, and he walked off. He returns 5 minutes later and gives me back my pen. I wrote a note for you. He stands close to me, drops a piece of cardboard behind my back, and walks away. In hindsight, I see how sneaky this was. He made sure no one could see him dropping that note. I pick it up. It was pretty weird, but one line in particular made my skin crawl. Wear tighter pants for me next time. They'd look good. Harmless. I ran to the office and sat in front of the CCTV monitor, seeing exactly where he was. He was standing outside the building, pacing, waiting. He then walks back into the building, and on the camera I could see he was looking for me, but thankfully at this point I was in the office, so he goes back outside, pacing again, and waiting before hiding himself out of sight behind a corner. I told my manager, who told me to exit through the back entrance, which I did. I was shaking, checking behind me every few seconds, every noise making me run faster and faster until eventually I reached the safety of my home. I sat down, processing what just happened, when suddenly my phone vibrates. Hey, it's John. Thanks for the chat. Talk soon. How the hell did he get my number? I have never blocked someone quicker in my life. I told the higher-ups what happened and didn't return to work for at least a month, and until he was permanently barred from my workplace. I still fear I'll see him somewhere, that he'll be waiting. Thankfully, I haven't seen him since, and don't wish to. And if you're reading this, let's not meet again.